The arrival of the Barzan. A shocking turn of events, the Galactic Council's attempts to telepathically scan the minds of humanity's leaders failed utterly, sending shockwaves of disbelief through the alien delegation. The sleek Barzan vessel had descended through Earth's atmosphere just hours before, landing on the White House lawn and marking a historic moment of first contact. As the ship's occupants emerged, led by the ethereal Ambassador Saris, they projected their thoughts directly into the minds of the emergency summit's attendees, expressing peaceful intentions. Saris revealed the Barzan's centuries-long observation of humanity, impressed by the species' rapid development and potential. The aliens believed humanity was ready to join the Galactic Council, an alliance of enlightened spacefaring races. However, when Saris attempted to telepathically verify the leader's intentions as a standard security measure, he found himself unable to penetrate their minds. Intensifying his psychic probe yielded no results. The human minds remained opaque, impenetrable barriers. As concerned murmurs spread through the Barzan delegation, confirming the phenomenon was not isolated to Saris alone, tension mounted in the room. Will Gray, a skilled human diplomat, stepped forward, maintaining composure despite his own astonishment at his apparent immunity. Gray assured the Barzans of humanity's peaceful intentions and eagerness to learn about the Galactic Council. He proposed a joint task force to investigate the perplexing issue of human psychic immunity, a suggestion Saris accepted. In the wake of the aliens' retreat to their ship for private deliberations, the human leaders erupted into heated debate. Some saw strategic advantage in the Barzan's inability to read their thoughts, while others feared it would be interpreted as hostility. Covert agencies assembled scientific and intelligence teams to study the alien abilities as a rogue Barzan faction secretly plotted against the Alliance, convinced unreadable human minds posed an existential threat to their psychic supremacy. The monumental first contact now hinged on a single question. Would humanity's unorthodox nature prove their greatest strength or herald their ultimate downfall in the galactic community? The world watched with bated breath as the quest for answers began. The discovery of the Sergeant variant as the Barzan delegation filed back into their sleek vessel, an air of unease settled over the White House lawn. The human leaders exchanged glances, their minds racing with the implications of this unprecedented encounter. Amidst the chaos, a small group quietly slipped away from the crowd, their movements purposeful and precise. Dr. Lena Sargent strode down the hallway of a nondescript government building, her heels clicking against the polished floor. She had been summoned mere hours ago, pulled away from her cutting-edge research on the human brain. As she entered the secure conference room, she found herself face-to-face with an eclectic group of individuals, each hand-picked for their unique skills and expertise. Will Gray, his diplomatic attire slightly rumpled from the day's events, greeted her with a nod. "Dr. Sargent, thank you for coming on such short notice. We have much to discuss." As the team settled around the table, Gray briefed them on the situation. "The Barzan's inability to read our minds has thrown them into disarray. We need to understand why, and fast. Dr. Sargent, that's where you come in." Lena leaned forward, her eyes alight with curiosity. "I've been analyzing the brain scans of the diplomats present at the encounter. There's a pattern, a unique neurological signature that I believe is responsible for the psychic immunity. I call it the Sargent variant." The room buzzed with excitement as Lena explained her findings. The Sargent variant, it seemed, was more common among neurodivergent individuals, hinting at a profound link between human diversity and their newfound advantage. Meanwhile, aboard the Barzan ship, tensions reached a boiling point. Admiral Zorn paced the bridge, his face contorted with anger. "These humans are a threat," he growled. "Their unreadable minds make them unpredictable, dangerous. We must act now before it's too late." Ambassador Saris held up a hand, his voice calm but firm. "We came here to extend an offer of peace, not to start a war. We must proceed with caution and understanding." Dr. Amara, the ship's psychologist, nodded in agreement. "The humans are not our enemy. Their neurological differences could be the key to unlocking new levels of cooperation and growth between our species." But Zorn would not be swayed. As the debate raged on, he quietly slipped away, his loyal followers close behind. They had their own plans, ones that would ensure Barzan's supremacy at any cost. The coup and the rescue mission back on Earth, Gray and Sargent worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of the Sargent variant. They pored over data, conducted experiments, and sought out individuals with the unique neurological signature. Each discovery brought them closer to understanding the true potential of the human mind. In a daring move, Gray arranged a clandestine meeting between Sargent and Ambassador Saris. The two scientists, one human and one Barzan, found common ground in their pursuit of knowledge. As they shared their findings, a glimmer of hope began to take hold. But even as progress was made, dark forces conspired against them. Zorn's spies had infiltrated the human facility, relaying every move back to their master. The Admiral's plans grew more sinister by the day, his hunger for power consuming him. Saris and Amara, unaware of the danger lurking within their own ranks, continued to push for diplomacy. They met with human leaders, exchanging ideas and seeking common ground, but the shadow of Zorn's ambition loomed ever larger, threatening to engulf them all. As the days turned into weeks, the fragile alliance between humans and Barzan began to fray at the edges. Misunderstandings and cultural differences sowed seeds of discord, even as Sargent and Amara worked to bridge the gap. Gray found himself caught in the middle, torn between his duty to his own species and his growing respect for the Barzan. He spent long hours in meetings, trying to find a path forward that would satisfy both sides, but it was all for naught. In a stunning betrayal, Zorn staged his coup, seizing control of the Barzan ship and its powerful weapons. Saris and Amara were taken captive, their fate uncertain. As news of the coup spread, panic gripped the human world. Leaders scrambled to prepare for war, while Gray and Sargent raced against time to find a solution. They knew that the key to stopping Zorn lay in the very thing that divided their species, the untapped potential of the human mind. But with the clock ticking down and the specter of interstellar war looming on the horizon, they could only hope that their efforts would be enough to save both their worlds from destruction. The Barzan ship's sudden takeoff sent shockwaves through the gathered crowd on the White House lawn. Will Gray watched in disbelief as the sleek vessel disappeared into the clouds, his mind racing with the implications of what had just occurred. "We need to move now," he muttered, grabbing Dr. Lena Sargent by the arm and steering her away from the chaos. They rushed through the winding corridors of the White House, finally reaching a secure communications room. Will's fingers flew over the keypad, punching in a number he hadn't used in years. The line rang twice before a gruff voice answered, "This better be good, Gray. I was in the middle of something. Marcus, it's worse than we could have imagined. I need your help." The telepathic Edge Colonel Marcus Blackwell listened intently as Will outlined the situation, his voice growing tense as he absorbed the gravity of the crisis. "A covert extraction from an alien spacecraft? You don't ask for small favors, do you?" Despite the sarcasm, Will could hear the excitement in his old friend's voice. "I'll assemble my team. We'll be there in 4 hours." As Will ended the call, he turned to find Dr. Sargent staring at a screen filled with complex neurological data, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Will, you need to see this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He leaned in, trying to make sense of the intricate patterns and graphs. "What am I looking at, Lena?" She pointed to a specific section of the display. "This is the neurological signature of the Sargent variant, but look here." Her finger moved to another area. "This is data from the Barzan ship's emissions during their attempted mind probe." Will's brow furrowed. "They're similar. More than similar," Lena corrected. "They're nearly identical. Will, I don't think the Barzan telepathic abilities are natural. They're induced by exposure to a specific type of cosmic radiation. The implications hit Will like a freight train." "Are you saying we could potentially—" Lena nodded, her eyes gleaming with commitment. "Give humans telepathic abilities? Yes, I think it's possible." Will paced the room, his mind racing. The potential advantages were enormous, but so were the risks. After a long moment, he stopped and faced Lena. "Do it. Set up whatever you need. We're going to need every edge we can get." As Lena rushed off to begin her work, Will made another call. Within hours, a group of volunteers had been assembled, each carefully screened for their potential compatibility with the Sargent variant. Among them stood Lieutenant Alex Novak, a young soldier with piercing blue eyes and an air of quiet intensity. As Dr. Sargent explained the procedure, Alex's gaze never wavered, absorbing every detail with laser-like focus. The training process was grueling, days blurring into nights as the volunteers pushed their minds to the limit. Alex emerged as a standout, his neurodivergent brain adapting to the new abilities with surprising speed. The psychic war, meanwhile, aboard the Barzan ship, Admiral Zorn paced the bridge like a caged animal, his eyes once clear and determined, now holding a manic gleam. "Tell me what they're planning!" he roared, looming over the battered forms of Saris and Dr. Amara. Saris, his usually immaculate appearance now disheveled, met Zorn's gaze with defiance. "We will not betray those who seek peace, Zorn. Your actions shame us all." Before Zorn could respond, a young officer burst onto the bridge. "Admiral, we've detected an unauthorized transmission from the lower decks." Zorn's face contorted with rage. "Find the source now!" In the bowels of the ship, Lyra, a young Barzan telepath, frantically worked to encrypt her message to Earth, her fingers trembling as she heard the sound of approaching footsteps. As the door burst open, she managed to hit send before being roughly dragged away. Back on Earth, Colonel Blackwell's team prepared for their daring mission. Will watched as they donned advanced stealth suits, each movement precise and practiced. Alex approached, his eyes now holding a strange, otherworldly depth. "Sir, I'm picking up a transmission from the Barzan ship. It's weak, but I think someone's trying to help us." Will's heart raced. This could be the break they needed. He turned to Blackwell, who nodded grimly. "All right, people," the colonel's voice rang out. "We have a narrow window. Let's move out." As the team boarded their specially modified craft, Will felt a mix of hope and dread. The fate of two worlds now rested on this high-stakes endeavor. In the depths of the Barzan ship, Zorn stood before a massive device, its surface pulsing with eerie energy. His laughter echoed through the chamber as he placed his hand on the control panel. "Let them come," he snarled. "They'll soon learn the true power of the Barzan mind." The Council's intervention. The human rescue team's craft streaked through the atmosphere, its stealth systems engaged to evade Zorn's sensors. Inside, Will Gray's mind raced. "We need a new strategy fast," he announced, his voice tight. "Change of plans. We're not boarding that ship. It's too risky." Colonel Blackwell raised an eyebrow. "Then what's our play?" Will took a deep breath. "We're going straight to the top, the Galactic Council." Lena's eyes widened. "Are you sure that's wise? We barely understand our place in the galactic community." "It's our only shot," Will replied. "Zorn's actions aren't just a threat to Earth, they're a violation of galactic law." As their craft changed course, Will composed an urgent message to the Council, his fingers flying over the console, detailing Zorn's coup and the threat he posed. He emphasized humanity's unique psychic immunity, hoping it would pique the Council's interest. Hours later, a massive ship materialized in Earth's orbit, its sleek design dwarfing even the Barzan vessel. A voice crackled over the comms. "This is Commander Tayor of the Galactic Council Peacekeeping Force. We received your petition and are here to assist." Relief washed over Will's face as he responded, "Commander, thank you for coming. We're ready to cooperate fully." The human team docked with Tayor's ship, marveling at its advanced technology. They were escorted to a conference room where Commander Tayor awaited them, her tall, lithe form radiating authority, her silver eyes scanning each human with keen interest. "Your situation is unique," Tayor began. "Zorn has long been a problem for the Council. His anti-human rhetoric and disregard for our laws have not gone unnoticed." Will leaned forward. "What can we do to persevere in this crisis?" Tayor's expression hardened. "We must act swiftly. Our intel suggests Zorn is planning a preemptive strike against Earth." As they discussed strategy, a commotion erupted outside the room. Dr. Amara burst in, her face pale but determined. "I've made contact with someone on Zorn's ship," she gasped. "A young telepath named Lyra. She's been feeding us information." Alex Novak stepped forward, his eyes glowing faintly. "I can confirm. We've established a rudimentary psychic link." Commander Tayor's silver eyes narrowed. "This changes things. We may have an advantage we didn't expect." The final showdown, Will's mind raced with possibilities. What if we brought everyone to the table, a diplomatic summit on neutral ground? Tayor considered for a moment, then nodded. "It's risky, but it might be our best chance to avoid bloodshed. My ship can serve as the neutral territory." Preparations began immediately. Dr. Sargent worked with her team of neurodivergent telepaths to create a psychic shield around the conference room. Will coordinated with Earth's leaders while Taor sent a formal summons to Zorn. As the delegations arrived, tension crackled in the air. Zorn strode into the room, his face a mask of awe-inspiring rage. Will took his seat across from the Admiral, acutely aware of the weight of two worlds resting on his shoulders. "This farce changes nothing," Zorn snarled. "The humans are a threat that must be eliminated." Will opened his mouth to respond, but Alex cut him off, the young soldier's eyes blazing with an otherworldly light as he locked gazes with Zorn. Suddenly, the Admiral staggered back, his face contorting in shock. Alex's voice was strained. "I'm showing him everything. Our minds, our experiences, what it means to be human." Zorn's eyes widened, his certainty visibly shaken. In that moment of weakness, Lyra stood up from the Barzan delegation. "Enough, Admiral," she declared, her voice ringing out. "Your warmongering ends now. I pledge my loyalty to the Council and to peace with humanity." One by one, Zorn's supporters began to distance themselves. The Admiral's face twisted with fury, but he found himself surrounded by Council peacekeepers, his plans crumbling around him. As Zorn was led away in restraints, Will exhaled slowly. The immediate crisis had been averted, but he knew the real work was just beginning. Humanity's place in the galactic community hung in the balance, and the power they had discovered within themselves would need to be wielded with great responsibility. Commander Taor approached, her expression unreadable. "The Council will need to discuss your status moving forward," she said. "But for now, let's focus on stabilizing the situation with the Barzans." Will nodded, his mind already racing with the challenges ahead. As he looked around the room at humans and aliens working side by side, he realized that the universe had just become a much larger, more complex place, and humanity's role in it was far from certain. A fragile peace. The dust settled in the aftermath of the tense negotiations, but the air was still thick with uncertainty. Will Gray stood at the viewport of Commander Taor's ship, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The immediate crisis had been averted, but a new chapter fraught with challenges lay ahead. "It's not ideal, but it's the best we could hope for," Commander Taor said, her silver eyes reflecting the blue-green orb of Earth. Will nodded, his mind racing with the implications. A tenuous peace is better than no peace at all, he thought. But he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a razor's edge. The terms of the agreement weighed heavily on Will's mind: strict regulations on human psychic abilities, oversight from the Galactic Council, and a lengthy vetting process for full membership. It felt like humanity was being put on probation, their every move scrutinized. But as he gazed out at the stars, Will knew that this was the only way forward. They had to prove themselves not just to the Council, but to the entire galaxy. "I need to speak with Lyra," Will said, turning from the viewport. "Her perspective might help us navigate this new landscape." He found the young Barzan telepath in a quiet corner of the ship's botanical garden. Lyra's normally vibrant skin seemed pale, her large eyes distant as she absently stroked the leaves of an alien fern. "How are you holding up?" Will asked, taking a seat beside her. Lyra sighed, her gaze meeting his. "It's complicated. I've betrayed my people in a way, but I couldn't stand by and watch Zorn destroy everything." She paused, collecting her thoughts. The Barzan have always viewed mind control as an aberration, something to be suppressed. Zorn twisted that fear into a weapon, equating psychic power with racial superiority. Will listened intently, his mind racing with the implications. "And now humans have stumbled into this powder keg," he said, more to himself than to her. Lyra nodded, her expression softening. "I empathize with your situation, Will. You've unlocked a part of yourselves that you can't simply ignore. But tread carefully. The galaxy isn't ready for unfettered human telepaths." As Will digested Lyra's words, activity buzzed elsewhere on the ship. Dr. Lena Sargent stood in a modified training room, observing as her team of neurodivergent recruits underwent rigorous exercises alongside Commander Taor's telepaths. "Focus!" Lena urged, watching as Lieutenant Alex Novak strained to maintain a psychic shield. "Remember the techniques we practiced." Alex gritted his teeth, sweat beading on his forehead. The shield flickered, then stabilized, a small victory, but the weight of responsibility pressed down on the young soldier's shoulders. Dr. Amara approached, her keen eyes taking in the scene. "He's progressing well," she murmured to Lena, "but I worry about the long-term implications. Will the Council ever truly accept human telepaths as equals?" Lena's response was cut short by an urgent communication. Colonel Blackwell's face appeared on a nearby screen, his expression grim. "We have a situation," he reported. "General Forge has gone rogue. He's conducting illegal psychic experiments on kidnapped test subjects." The news sent shockwaves through the ship. Will immediately convened an emergency meeting with Commander Tayor and key members of his team. "This is exactly the kind of reckless behavior the Council fears," Tayor said, her silver eyes flashing with concern. Before they could formulate a response, alarms blared throughout the ship. A frenzied psychic, one of Forge's escaped test subjects, had broken free and was wreaking havoc. Alex sprinted down a corridor, his enhanced senses reaching out to locate the threat. He rounded a corner and came face to face with the escapee, a man driven mad by crude psychic augmentation. Time seemed to slow as Alex reached out with his mind, attempting to subdue the rogue psychic. The air crackled with invisible energy as their minds clashed. Alex felt himself being pushed to the limit, teetering on the edge of his own sanity as he fought to contain the raw, uncontrolled power before him. With a final surge of will, Alex overpowered the escapee, both men collapsing to the floor, Alex's nose bleeding from the strain. In the aftermath, Will found himself once again facing the Galactic Council. This time he came armed with irrefutable evidence of General Forge's illegal activities. The Council's ultimatum was clear: place all psychic research and training under their direct oversight or forfeit any chance of Galactic membership. Will spent long hours in heated debates with Earth's leadership, arguing passionately for compliance. "This is our only path forward," he insisted, his voice hoarse from the prolonged discussions. In the end, they acquiesced. A joint training facility was established on an uninhabited moon, a neutral ground where human, Barzan, and Council telepaths could work together under careful supervision. As the first transport ship prepared to depart for the moon base, Will watched the assembled recruits, their faces showing a mix of excitement and apprehension. Alex Novak stood among them, his eyes now holding a depth of experience beyond his years. "Are we doing the right thing?" Alex asked quietly as Will approached. Will placed a hand on the young soldier's shoulder. "We're taking our first steps into a larger universe. It won't be easy, but it's a journey we have to make." As the ship's engines roared to life, Will couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much longer, more complex story. Humanity's place among the stars hung in the balance, and the path ahead was anything but certain.